Picture this. You open your refrigerator and everything inside looks organized and pristine, as if you've done your best to ensure each food item stays fresh. It's a habit we've all been taught. The fridge is where we store things to keep them cool, safe, and preserved for longer. But what if I told you that this everyday practice might not always be the best for your food, and in some cases, it might even be ruining it? While the fridge can do wonders for some ingredients, there are many common foods that actually lose their flavor, spoil faster, or even become less healthy when stored there. This isn't just about a few minor mistakes. It's about understanding that how we store our food truly impacts its taste, texture, and nutritional value. As we age, we become more attuned to the subtle changes in flavor and texture. Our digestion shifts, and the way we preserve and enjoy food matters even more. For those dealing with health issues like high blood pressure, diabetes, or digestive sensitivities, storing food the right way becomes crucial. It's not just about convenience, it's about getting the most out of the food you eat. But don't worry, this isn't going to be an overwhelming science lecture. Think of this as a conversation between friends, where we explore how small changes in food storage can improve your meals and even your well-being. I'll guide you through some common foods, explain why they don't belong in the fridge, and offer easy, practical solutions for how to store them properly. By the end of this, you'll be more confident in your kitchen and better equipped to make your food last longer while tasting better. So let's get started, because learning how to take better care of your food is not just about making better meals, it's about embracing the small, everyday changes that can help us live a healthier, tastier life. Let's start with something that most of us keep stocked in our kitchens: potatoes. Whether you're mashing them, baking them, or tossing them into a hearty stew, potatoes are a true comfort food. But here's the kicker: putting them in the fridge can actually do more harm than good. It's something many of us don't think twice about, but storing potatoes in cold temperatures is a mistake that affects both their taste and texture. When you chill potatoes, something strange happens to their natural starches. They start to convert into sugars. This process speeds up, causing the potatoes to develop a sweet flavor and grainy texture. If you've ever noticed that your fries or mashed potatoes taste a little too sweet or feel oddly gritty, the fridge could be the culprit. It gets worse. When those sugar-filled potatoes are cooked at high heat, like when you're frying them, it can create a substance called acrylamide. Studies have suggested that acrylamide might be linked to certain cancers. While a single plate of fries probably isn't going to cause harm, it's still a good reminder that the way we store food matters more than we often realize. Aside from the potential health concern, moisture is another problem. The refrigerator is a humid environment, and that moisture is a fast track to spoiling your potatoes. Instead of staying firm and fresh, they can turn mushy, smell off, or even start to sprout prematurely. So what's the solution? Keep your potatoes in a cool, dark, and dry place. A pantry, cupboard, or cellar works great, anywhere that's not too warm but also not too cold. You want them to breathe, so avoid plastic bags. Instead, use a paper bag, mesh sack, or a basket, all of which allow air circulation and prevent moisture buildup. And here's another tip: don't store potatoes with onions. They may seem like a natural pairing in the kitchen, but the gases released by onions can make potatoes sprout or rot faster. Storing potatoes this way not only extends their shelf life but also helps them maintain the rich, earthy flavor we all love. Keeping them out of the fridge ensures they remain a hearty and wholesome part of your meals. No more sweet, grainy mashed potatoes, just pure, comforting goodness every time. Next is tomatoes. Whether you slice them for your sandwich, toss them in a salad, or use them to make a rich pasta sauce, are a beloved kitchen staple. But there's one thing you might not know: storing tomatoes in the fridge can actually strip them of their full flavor and texture. It's an easy mistake to make, thinking that the fridge will keep them fresh, but in reality, the cold air halts the natural ripening process. When tomatoes are chilled, their flavors dull and become muted. Instead of being sweet, juicy, and flavorful, they turn bland and a little mealy. You might not notice the difference right away, but after a few days, you'll start to wonder why they don't taste like they used to. The cold temperature also slows down the natural chemical processes that help the fruit ripen to its peak, meaning your tomatoes won't develop that delightful burst of flavor that we all crave. Even more important is that refrigeration reduces the amount of lycopene in tomatoes. Lycopene is a powerful antioxidant known for supporting heart health and potentially reducing cancer risks. As we age, we want to make sure we're getting the most out of every bite of food, and putting tomatoes in the fridge can take away some of those crucial nutrients. So, what's the best way to store your tomatoes? It's actually very simple: keep them on the counter at room temperature. Storing them this way allows them to ripen fully and retain their rich, juicy flavor. For extra freshness, Place the tomato stems side down to prevent moisture loss. If the tomatoes are still firm when you buy them, don't rush them. Just leave them out for a few days and they will ripen naturally. The fridge should only come into play once your tomatoes are fully ripe and you can't eat them right away. And even then, make sure you bring them back to room temperature before eating them again. That way you'll get back the flavor and texture you've been missing. After all, tomatoes are meant to be bursting with flavor, not just another bland ingredient on your plate. 3. Onions. These little powerhouses are the foundation of so many dishes. From soups and stews to stir-fries and salads, onions add depth, complexity, and a savory kick to virtually every meal. But here's the thing. If you've been storing your onions in the fridge, you're doing them a huge disservice. The cold, humid environment of the refrigerator doesn't just alter their flavor, it can completely ruin them. When onions are exposed to cold temperatures, the moisture in the fridge activates the natural sugars and starches within the onion. This makes them turn soft, mushy, and, in some cases, even slimy. The fridge also does something else. It messes with the onion's flavor. It can make it much sweeter than usual, which might sound okay at first, but trust me, it's not the kind of sweetness you want. Worse, when onions are kept in cold and damp conditions, they start to grow mold and become overly soft. You might not realize it right away, but before long, your onion has lost all its bite. The fridge isn't just tough on the onions themselves, it also affects everything around them. Onions are notorious for their pungent aroma, and when you store them in the fridge, that smell doesn't stay contained. It escapes and seeps into other foods like butter, milk, or even berries. The last thing anyone wants is onion-flavored yogurt or an onion-infused slice of cake. So, how can we save our onions and preserve their flavor? The solution is simple. Store them in a cool, dry, well-ventilated place. A basket, mesh bag, or even a paper bag works perfectly, anything that allows air to circulate. Avoid sealing them in plastic bags as that traps moisture and speeds up spoilage. Also, keep your onions separate from potatoes. It's tempting to store them together, but the gases released by onions can cause potatoes to sprout and spoil more quickly. Think of it as a little culinary rivalry. The onion and potato combo doesn't play well together. And if you've already cut or peeled your onion, that's the time the fridge becomes your friend. Just wrap it tightly in plastic or store it in an airtight container to keep the smells at bay. With the right storage, your onions will stay fresh, flavorful, and ready to enhance every meal. 4. Garlic. This is an essential kitchen companion. It brings that perfect punch to pasta sauces, roasts, stir-fries, and countless other dishes. But if you've been storing garlic in the fridge, you're not doing it any favors. While it might seem like a good idea to keep garlic fresh and ready for cooking, refrigeration has the opposite effect, and your garlic might start showing the signs of damage sooner than you think. When garlic is stored in the fridge, it tends to sprout. Those little green shoots that emerge from the cloves are actually quite bitter, and they drastically change the taste of the garlic. Instead of its usual robust, slightly spicy kick, you get a garlic that's overly sweet and not at all what you want in your meals. The cold also introduces moisture, which can lead to garlic going soft, mushy, or even moldy. The texture changes, and the vibrant flavor garlic is known for gets completely lost. But the fridge's effects don't stop there. When garlic absorbs moisture, it starts to lose its natural, bold flavor and can begin to take on the scents of other foods in the fridge. That means your garlic might taste a little like whatever else is chilling in there, old cheese, leftover salad, or whatever other fragrant food you have stored. It's not the ideal way to keep this key ingredient fresh. So how can you store garlic the right way? The best method is simple. Let garlic breathe. Store whole garlic bulbs in a dry, cool place with plenty of airflow. A basket, a mesh bag, or an open container works wonders. The goal is to avoid trapping moisture, which would lead to premature sprouting or mold. A common mistake is to seal garlic in plastic bags, but that creates a humid environment that speeds up spoilage. Once you break open the garlic bulb and start using individual cloves, the fridge does become more helpful. If you don't plan to use the rest of the garlic immediately, place the unused cloves in an airtight container or wrap them tightly in plastic to preserve their freshness. This keeps the garlic's aroma locked in, preventing it from leaking into the rest of your fridge's contents. Garlic is too important to be treated carelessly. Proper storage keeps its rich flavor intact, making it the star of your dishes for longer. Let your garlic live its best life outside the fridge, and you'll notice the difference in the taste of your cooking. 5. Avocados. The creamy, rich fruit that's practically a kitchen staple these days. Whether you're spreading it on toast, tossing it into a smoothie, or making guacamole for the next gathering, avocados are beloved for their versatility and healthy fats. But when it comes to storing them, timing is everything. and putting them in the fridge too early can completely ruin their texture and flavor. Here's the deal: unripe avocados should never, ever go in the fridge. Why? Because avocados ripen using a natural gas called ethylene, and the cold temperature from the fridge halts this ripening process. When you store an unripe avocado in the fridge, you'll end up with a rock-hard fruit that stays firm and tasteless no matter how much you wait. Even worse, some avocados will never ripen properly if stored in the fridge, remaining unyielding and unappetizing. But let's say you've got a ripe avocado, then the fridge can come in handy. If you're not going to eat it right away, sticking it in the fridge for a short period, a day or two, will help preserve its creaminess. But don't keep it in there for too long, because the longer it stays chilled, the more likely it is to turn watery, stringy, or just bland. When you finally take it out of the fridge, its texture won't be as smooth or enjoyable as it was before. The healthy fats inside start to break down, and you lose that signature rich, buttery texture that makes avocados so satisfying. Now, what if you've already cut your avocado and only need part of it? Once you slice into an avocado, the flesh quickly turns brown due to oxidation. To slow this process, brush the cut surface with a little lemon or lime juice. This helps prevent browning and keeps the fruit looking fresh. After that, place the remaining avocado in an airtight container in the fridge. But remember, it won't last long. Use it within a couple of days for the best texture and flavor. And here's a neat trick. If you want your avocados to ripen faster, place them in a paper bag with a banana or apple. These fruits give off ethylene gas, which speeds up the ripening process naturally. No fridge needed. The bottom line is simple. Let your avocados ripen at room temperature, and only refrigerate them once they're perfectly ripe, and even then only for a short time. This way you can enjoy them at their best, smooth, creamy, and packed with heart-healthy fats. 6. Bananas. One of the most convenient and delicious snacks around. Their naturally sweet flavor and smooth texture make them perfect for everything from quick snacks to smoothies, oatmeal, and even baking. But if you've been sticking your bananas in the fridge to make them last longer, you might be setting yourself up for a big disappointment. Here's why. Bananas thrive at room temperature, and when exposed to cold, like the temperatures in your fridge, their skin starts to darken almost immediately. You might open the fridge and see your bananas turning black or brown and think, "Oh no, they're overripe." But here's the twist. Inside, they're actually still underripe. The cold stunts their ripening process, meaning they stay firm, starchy, and bland, even though their skin looks overripe. What happens here is a phenomenon known as chilling injury. The cells inside the banana break down under cold temperatures, and even if you take them back out to room temperature, they don't recover properly. This means you'll end up with bananas that don't have the soft, sweet texture you love and may taste unpleasantly starchy. So, how should you store your bananas? Keep them at room temperature, away from the fridge, and they'll ripen naturally over time. If you're concerned about them ripening too quickly, hang them on a banana hook to allow air circulation. This will help reduce bruising and speed up the ripening process in a more controlled way. If you don't have a hook, no problem. Just place them on the counter or in a fruit bowl away from other fruits like apples that release ethylene gas and can cause the bananas to ripen too quickly. Now, if your bananas are getting too ripe for your liking, that's the time to freeze them. Peel them first, slice them if you want, and pop them into the freezer. Frozen bananas are perfect for smoothies, baking, or even oatmeal. Here's an old-fashioned trick. Mash ripe bananas and freeze them in small portions for when you're ready to make banana bread or pancakes. The key takeaway here is simple. Let your bananas ripen on the counter, and only freeze them once they're ripe. By keeping them out of the fridge, you'll get the sweet, soft, and perfectly textured bananas that are ideal for all your culinary needs. 7. Uncut melons. There's nothing quite as refreshing as a juicy slice of watermelon on a hot summer day or a chilled cantaloupe to round off a meal. But if you've been putting whole melons in the fridge, it's time to rethink that habit. While it may seem like the fridge would keep melons fresh for longer, storing them there too soon actually stops them from ripening properly, affecting both their taste and texture. Here's the thing. Melons such as watermelon, cantaloupe, and honeydew continue ripening even after they've been picked. This means that when you refrigerate a whole melon, you halt the ripening process. As a result, the fruit doesn't develop its full sweetness, leaving you with a less flavorful, less juicy melon. Instead of the crisp, refreshing texture you're used to, you'll likely find it becomes mushy or grainy over time, which is far from appetizing. But it's not just about taste. Studies have shown that melons left at room temperature also retain higher levels of antioxidants like beta-carotene and vitamin C, both of which are crucial for boosting your immune system and fighting off inflammation. Refrigerating melons too soon means you're not only losing out on the best flavor but also some important health benefits that you could easily have gotten if you had left them on the counter to ripen fully. So, what's the best way to store your melons? Keep them at room temperature until they're fully ripe. This gives them time to develop their full sweetness and flavor. Once they've reached their peak ripeness, it's time to chill them. Slice them up and place the pieces in an airtight container or cover them with plastic wrap. This helps preserve their taste and texture, and you'll enjoy them as a cool, refreshing treat. But remember, this rule only applies to whole melons. Once the melon is cut, it's time to put it in the fridge to keep it fresh for a few days. Enjoying the perfect melon is all about letting it ripen naturally, so don't rush it into the fridge too soon. Bread. Whether it's a freshly baked loaf, a sandwich bun, or a slice toasted for breakfast, is an essential part of many meals. It's comforting, satisfying, and perfect for any time of day. But if you've been storing your bread in the fridge to keep it fresh longer, you might be doing more harm than good. Here's the surprising truth: bread actually goes stale faster in the fridge. It sounds counterintuitive, right? The fridge is supposed to preserve things after all. But bread has a unique property known as retrogradation. This is the process where the starch molecules in bread crystallize, causing the bread to lose its softness and become dry and crumbly. In fact, the cold temperatures of the fridge speed up this process, turning your once soft slices into a stale, tough mess. The fridge also introduces moisture, which can make the outer crust soggy while the inside remains tough. So what's the best way to store your bread and keep it fresh? It's simple. Keep it in a cool, dry place but not in the fridge. Store your bread in a bread box, pantry, or even on the counter in a paper bag or a cloth bag with a loose seal. The goal is to allow air to circulate so the bread doesn't become too damp or dry out too quickly. If you know you won't finish the loaf in a few days, freezing is your best bet. Freezing actually helps preserve bread much better than refrigeration. Slice the bread before freezing so you can pull out only what you need. Then just pop it in the toaster or warm it in the oven when you're ready to enjoy it. When you store bread properly, you'll enjoy it just as fresh as it was the day you bought it, with that soft texture and comforting aroma. Bread, after all, is meant to be enjoyed fresh, so let's make sure it stays that way. 9. Honey is one of nature's sweetest gifts. It's been used for thousands of years not just as a sweetener, but also for its medicinal properties. Honey is incredibly stable and, when stored properly, it can last indefinitely. But when you put honey in the fridge, you're making a mistake that could affect both its texture and usability. Honey is unique because it's naturally antimicrobial. Archaeologists have even found pots of honey in ancient Egyptian tombs that are still perfectly edible after thousands of years. This is because honey doesn't spoil under normal conditions. However, when you refrigerate honey, it causes it to crystallize faster. You've probably seen it happen. Your smooth, golden honey suddenly turns thick, grainy, and sometimes almost solid. While it's still safe to eat, it's definitely not as easy to use. It becomes difficult to pour, stir, or spread, and you lose the pleasant, smooth texture that makes honey such a treat. Refrigeration can also introduce moisture into the honey, especially if the seal isn't airtight. This moisture can cause fermentation, leading to spoilage over time. Honey's natural properties are disrupted, and you'll end up with a product that's harder to enjoy and potentially compromised in quality. So, how should you store honey? The best place for honey is in the pantry or a cupboard, at room temperature in a tightly sealed container. Avoid exposure to direct sunlight or heat, which can degrade the quality over time, but there's no need to store it in the fridge. If your honey does crystallize, there's an easy fix. Simply place the jar in a bowl of warm water, not boiling, and stir until it returns to its liquid form. The process is gentle, preserving the honey's quality and natural flavor. In the end, honey is a natural wonder that deserves proper care. Keep it in a cool, dark place and you'll enjoy its sweetness and health benefits for years to come. 10. Olive oil, particularly extra virgin olive oil, is not just a cooking essential, it's a culinary treasure. Celebrated for its rich flavor, smooth texture, and health benefits, it's a staple in many kitchens, especially for Mediterranean diets. But here's the catch: when it comes to storing olive oil, the fridge is your enemy. You may think the fridge will help preserve the freshness of olive oil, but in reality, it does the exact opposite. When olive oil is chilled, it begins to solidify. The oil will turn cloudy and thick, and you might even notice waxy white lumps that look like it's spoiled. This is because olive oil is made up of fats, and when cooled, those fats harden. This doesn't just affect its appearance, it also makes the oil harder to use. You'll find it difficult to pour or drizzle, and when you finally bring it back to room temperature, It may never quite return to its original smooth, fluid state. But that's not all. Storing olive oil in the fridge can also encourage condensation inside the bottle. The tiny amount of moisture that collects in the oil can start a process of spoilage, leading to oxidation and the growth of bacteria. This could shorten the shelf life of your olive oil, which, in the case of extra virgin olive oil, is something you don't want to risk. So, what's the best way to store your olive oil? Keep it in a cool, dark place, but not the fridge. A pantry, cupboard, or cabinet away from the stove or direct sunlight is ideal. Olive oil should be kept in a dark glass or stainless steel bottle to protect it from light, which is another factor that accelerates its deterioration. Also, make sure the bottle is tightly sealed to prevent air from getting in, as oxygen can cause the oil to spoil and become rancid. When stored properly, olive oil can stay fresh for months, sometimes even longer, while retaining its deep, fruity flavor and rich aroma. It will continue to provide you with its heart-healthy antioxidants, making it the perfect addition to your salads, pastas, and countless other dishes. Treat your olive oil with the care it deserves, and you'll enjoy its benefits and full flavor every time you use it. Now, you might be thinking, this is a lot to keep track of. But the good news is it's really all about small, simple changes. How we store food can have a profound effect on our meals, and when we take the time to respect the natural properties of these ingredients, we're not just preserving them, we're preserving the joy of eating well. In fact, food storage is one of those little things that can make a big difference in the way we experience food. It's a reminder that the choices we make every day, even the seemingly insignificant ones, have a lasting impact on our overall well-being. When we take care in how we store our food, we're honoring the traditions, flavors, and nutrients that each ingredient brings to our table. We're not just feeding our bodies, we're feeding our soul with the richness of every meal. As we get older, it becomes even more important to maximize the nutrients in our food and to treat our meals with care. It's not just about avoiding food waste, it's about enjoying food to its fullest. So, next time you go to store that onion or pop a tomato into the fridge, take a moment to ask yourself, is this how it was meant to be stored? Often, the wisdom we need isn't in a science lab or from the latest food trend. It's in the stories we grew up with, the habits passed down by our grandparents, and the simple practices that have stood the test of time. Remember, food isn't just about calories or expiration dates, it's about the connections we make through cooking and sharing meals with those we love. The choices we make in the kitchen, no matter how small, can shape our experience of food and enrich our lives. And here's a question for you. Which of these foods surprised you the most? Did you realize you've been storing them incorrectly for years? Or do you have any time-tested family tips and tricks that have worked for you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's keep this conversation going and learn from each other, because it's not just about watching videos, it's about passing on what we know to help each other live better, healthier lives. If you found this guide helpful, give it a thumbs up so that others can benefit from these food storage tips as well. And if you haven't yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button.